Kiddos, welcome to your last homework assignment of the 2022 school year. After today, we will be on break through January. So bring any questions with you to class. If by chance it is during break, you can always send me a message. But let's dive right in. We were closing up our decimal unit this week with an all decimal scale review. We have a page of adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and then a little of order operations because you know it's my favorite. So let's take a look at the rules. When we add decimals, a little bit of a throwback. Remember that the rules are all different. We have to make sure that we set ourselves up for success by reviewing them. So first, we're going to line up the decimals. We're going to fill in any empty spaces with zeros, drop your decimal down into your answer, and then, of course, add them up. So for this one, we have 8 and 33 hundredths. We're adding it to 15 hundredths decimal in our answer. We have 8 and 4 and 8, 8 and 48 hundredths. For this one, we have 49 and 8 tenths. We're adding it to 8 and 23 hundredths. Be careful. We need to add a 0 in this one. When we add, we have 3 and 10 and 18 and 5, 58 and 3 hundredths. Again, we have one digit after the decimal here, two after the decimal here. So just be careful that you're lining this up correctly. Number 3, we have 3 and 59 hundredths. We're adding that to 4 and 3 hundredths decimal down. Add it up. 9 and 3 is 12. 1 and 5 is 6. 4 and 3 is 7. 7 and 62 hundredths. Here's another trickster. I'm trying to keep you on your toes. 1 after, 2 after. 0 is our hero. 0 and 6 is 6. 8 and 1 is 9. 7 and 1 is 8. 8 and 96 hundredths. Again, on the Trick Express, make sure you line them up. Remember, when we line up our decimals, we're matching our place value. We don't want to add place values that are different. They have to be the same. 0 and 7 is 7, 6 and 6 is 12. We carry 5 and 1 is 6, 6 and 27 hundredths. And again, the ultimate trickster. I can't help myself. It's who I am as a human. 0 is your hero. We have a 3 and a 5 and a 13 and a 2. 2 and 353 thousandths. Questions? Bring them to class. On to our next one where we are subtracting. Remember, the only difference between adding and subtracting is that step 4, we subtract. That's the cool thing, that we have one pair adding and subtracting that does us a favor and stays close by. So we have to borrow for this. Remember, if our top is smaller, we can't do it even though we want to. I can't give you 7 when I only have 6. So I borrow. But if I have 16, now we're talking. 16 minus 7 is 9. 3 minus 0 is 3. Decimal. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 and 39 hundredths. Setting up our next one. We have a double borrow situation. Be careful. If I have 3, I can't give you 7, but I can borrow from my neighbor. 13 take away 7 is 6. If I have 3, I can't give you 6, but I can borrow from my neighbor. 13 minus 6 is 7. 3 minus 0 is 3. 3 and 76 hundredths. Here we have no borrowing to start. But when 0 is our hero, now we do. If I have 0, I can't give you 6, even though you're my favorite. But if I have 10, now I can. 10 minus 6 is 4. 2 and 2 is 0. 5 and 3 is 2. 2 and 4 hundredths. We got another trickster. 0 to save the day. But remember, in subtraction, when 0 is our hero, it means we have to borrow. If I have 0, I can't give you 2. But if I borrow and I have 10, now I can. 10 take away 2 is 8. 5 take away 3 is 2. 2 take away 1 is 1. 4 and nothing. I can add a 0. It leaves me with 4, 41 and 28 hundredths. 9 and 65 hundredths. Take away 1 and 75 hundredths. We have a little bit of borrowing here. 5 take away 5 is 0. I have to borrow. 6 take away 7 is 9. And 8 and 1 is 7. 7 and 90 hundredths. If you drop the 0, though, and said 7 and 9 tenths, that would be correct as well. Last one for subtraction. Set it up. We have a borrow. 15, take away 6 is 9, 5 and 3 is 2. Can't give you something if I have nothing, but if I subtract, I can. We have 19 and 29 hundredths. As always, questions, bring them to class. So for our multiplication, remember that things get a little bit different. We have to line up our digits, not our decimal, multiply like normal. Don't forget to count your decimals and put them back in your answer. So for this one, we have 3 and 7/10, and we're multiplying it by 1 and 2/10, but we're going to think of this like 37 and 12. When we multiply this out, we get 4, 4, 4. Remember, there's 2 digits, so we should have 2 lines. And then we count our decimals. We have 1 and 2. We have 1 and 2. 4 and 44 hundredths. For this one, when we multiply it out, we get 1, 3, 8, but don't forget your decimals. 1, 2, 3. Come over here. 1, 2, 3. 138 thousandths. Watch your decimal on that. It goes all the way to the front. This one is like 68 times 3. When I multiply that, I get 204. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2 and 4 hundredths. Over here, I'm going to multiply it like it's 56 times 32. I get 1, 7, 9, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1 and 792 thousandths. Multiplying this like 72 times 23, I get 1656. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1 and 656 thousandths. This one I'm multiplying like 604 times 5. And when I do that, I get, let me check this one because what I wrote down looks a little silly. Okay. We have 3, 0, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We have 3 and 20 thousandths. Any questions on these, kiddos? As always, please bring them to class. It doesn't matter if you're having trouble on the multiplication. I know some of us are continuing to review that. If you're having trouble with where to put your decimal, any questions, you can always bring them to class. And if you are not comfortable asking in class, remember that you can either send it in the chat, you can send me a message outside of class and let me know your question and I can bring it up. I do not have to point out who has the question. Just let me know your question so I can help you, okay? All right, on to our next page, which is dividing decimals. Remember, put your decimals straight up on the house, divide like normal. There are no remainders. Remember, if we have a decimal outside and inside, we need to do the Cupid shuffle, right? We talked about how we move everything to the right, to the right, to the right, to the right. Then we kick that decimal up into the answer. So here we go. We have 23 and 8/10 divided by 7/10. Decimals outside, break the rule, move it once. To the right, to the right, to the right, to the right. Once I do that, and I'm going to erase so it looks a little bit nicer, but once I do that, now my decimal's at the end, right? And we're going to kick it up into the answer. Now, a lot of times when that decimal's at the end, that means that our answer is going to be a whole number, but we know that a whole number always has a decimal at the end. We just don't put it there unless we need it. So 7 does not go into 2, but it does go into 23 3 times because 3 and 7 is 21. 23 take away 21 is 2, bring it on down. 7 goes into 28 4 times exactly, no remainder. 34 is our answer. We could say 34 and 0/10, 0 hundredths, however we want to say it. For this one, again, we're going to have to do some shuffling, once to the right, once to the right. Keep it balanced. It's all about being fair. So our decimal now is at the end. We're dividing in our 6. 6 goes into 9 one time because 1 times 6 is 6. Subtract 9 minus 6 is 3. Bring it on down. 6 goes into 33 5 times, which gives us 30, leaving us with 3. Bring down that last 6. 6 goes into 36 6 times, nothing left. We have an answer of 156. Over here, we're going to shuffle our way once and once to the right. Keep it fair. Kick that answer, decimal up into the answer. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 goes into 2 1 time. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 412 is our answer for that one. For this one, we only have the decimal inside the house, so all we have to do is kick it up into our answer, making sure we move it directly up, straight up carefully. 9 does not go into 3, but it goes into 36 4 times because 4 times 9 is 36. Subtract 36, take away 36 is 0, bring it on down. 9 goes into 9 1 time because 9 times 1 is 9, subtract for 0. Remember, we talked in class, if I'm dividing into a number before the decimal, my answer is before the decimal. If I'm dividing into an answer after the decimal, my answer goes after the decimal, okay? Keep it directly in line and your decimal will be just fine. 4 and 1/10. For this one, we got to shuffle it. When we do, it ends up as 27 divided by 3. 3 and 9 is 27 on the nose. The answer is whole number 9. Last one, another one similar to that. It ends up as 60 divided by 5, which is 12. No remainders. Questions? Bring them to class. On to our last page, my fave, order of operations, where we can do just a little bit of everything. Now remember, for this one, we are going to do parentheses first. So it doesn't matter where our parentheses are. We are always going to start there and make sure that all of them are completed before we do anything else. That is the best way to do it. All right, so for this one, we're starting with our parentheses. When we do 1 and 8/10 and we take away 5/10, we're left with 1 and 3/10. Bring down what we haven't used. When we multiply these together, we're multiplying it like 14 and 13. We get 182, move it twice, 1 and 82/100. Over here, when we add these, we get 7 and 8/10. And this is going to go in, we're going to move it. Whole number 12, when we multiply 7 and 8/10 times 12, we get 93 and 6/10. Over here, we have to divide first. Okay, even inside the parentheses, we're going to follow the rules. So when we do 9 and 9/10 and we divide it by 5/10, we end up with 19 and 8/10. We're going to add that to 6 and 3/10. That gives us 26 and 1/10. We're going to subtract our 1 and 8/10. When we do that, we get 24 and 3/10 total. Over here, 7 and 6 is 13. We're going to carry. We have a 5 and 3/10. We're going to multiply that by 7/10. When we do that, we get 3 and 71/100. Down here, we are going to subtract. And when we subtract, we end up with 2 and 6/10. We're going to multiply that by the answer of 4 and 8/10 divided by 2/10, which is 24. Because when we shuffle it around, we end up with whole numbers. When we multiply these, we get 31 and 2/10. Over here, we're going to multiply first because that's in our parentheses. So 2 and 8/10 times 2/10, we get 56/100. Bring down everything we haven't used. Now we're going to do what we have here, which is the multiplication. So 2 and 1/10 times 2 gives us 4 and 2/10. Subtracting our 56/100 is going to leave us with 3 and 64/100. And with that, my loves, we have completed our last assignment for the 2022 school year. As always, bring any questions with you to class. Happy holidays, happy New Year's, and I will see you in January.